Fam, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Run the thumbs up on these videos. I appreciate you guys. Well, you guys saw it. Kadyn Proctor has also entered the NCAA transfer portal. Now, this was a couple hours after Caleb Downs enters the NCAA transfer portal. You're talking about two of the most impactful freshmen at the University of Alabama on each sides of the ball that have entered the portal. We talked about Caleb Downs, and I'm still honestly in shock about Caleb Downs because I felt that on Tuesday, no news meant good news. And I think that's why Alabama pressed on to hire their defensive coordinator and their DB's coach. We've talked about that before. But ultimately, Caleb Downs clearly wanted to seek somewhere else. And it's a big loss. As I talked about it, there's no way to sugarcoat that. I mean, that is a loss. And now you have Kadyn Proctor. He's also a freshman at the University of Alabama, 6'8", 335 pounds. I remember seeing him at the Rose Bowl walking in the distance and just the biggest guy out in the stadium, in my opinion. Now, as you know, Kadyn Proctor started here at the University of Alabama his freshman season at the left tackle position, where I'll admit, I think the first couple of games he struggled. But he made a lot of improvement by season's end. I think he played a little bit too heavy, in my opinion. And people are saying right now that him being away from Iowa, homesick or whatever, could play a role in him wanting to get out of here. I think when you look to the impact that this will have on the University of Alabama, well, I think it's another significant loss on the offensive side of the ball. Just a couple days ago, you lose Isaiah Bond to Texas. And today you lose Kadyn Proctor, you lose Caleb Downs. But on the offensive side of the ball, that means the Alabama will now just have two returning offensive starters on the offensive line as opposed to three. Coming into this season so far, you had, or at least coming into this year, you had Kadyn Proctor, you had Tyler Booker, and then you had Jaden Roberts at the other guard position. Now with Kadyn Proctor exiting out, who's going to be the tackle? Who was going to be the tackle at the right side of the ball? Was it going to be Elijah Pritchett? I mean, I guess at least on paper. And who's going to be the center over here? Now, there's some talks about some of these offensive linemen from Washington coming in to the portal that could potentially come over here to Alabama, but and maybe that will work out. I know Nate Kelpo was one of the names at the guard position. There's also a center that could be coming over. And right now, I think if Alabama played a game this Saturday, it would probably be James Brockemeyer that would start at the center position. I know a lot of people have been asking about James Brockemeyer. What is your thoughts about Kadyn Proctor hitting the portal? What are your thoughts about him as a player? I want to get this graphic up, and it kind of details the players that have hit the portal since Coach Saban has retired. I think we're missing Antonio Kite on here. But to give you kind of a snapshot of how things are going, this is what it looks like so far. Caleb Downs, clearly the most impactful. Kadyn Proctor, certainly impactful. I mean, started every game for Alabama this season. Des Ricks didn't get playing time here at Alabama, but just recently committed to Texas A&M. Thought he would have contributed, especially with the guys exiting out, right? And then you have Kendrick Blackshire, who is going to Texas A&M. I'm sorry, Kendrick Blackshire going to Texas. And then you have Isaiah Bond going to Texas as well. Just a lot to track. I mean, it's been really amazing to see kind of the ins and the outs and everybody that has been leaving. So check this out. I mean, if you're wondering like who was leaving from Alabama secondary, ton of guys. Look at this graphic. Caleb Downs, Trey Amos, Jake Pope is going to Georgia, Des Ricks, Antonio Kite, Earl Little Jr., Christian Story, Terrion Arnold leaving early for the NFL, Kool-Aid leaving early for the NFL, Jalen Key, and T-Rob. I mean, that is just wild to think about guys that are leaving from Alabama's secondary. Also, check out this graphic. Players that are returning for this season. So you have Devontae Smith, Malachi Moore, Bray Hubbard, Jahil Hurley, Tony Mitchell. Transfer in is Damani Jackson. Of course, we're watching Jabbar Muhammad from Washington. I know Oregon and Texas in his top 3. So I mean, those are the guys that are coming back. And I think the guys that I'm about to showcase right now that are just incoming, these are freshmen that are quickly going to be either competing for a starting spot or in the 2 deep. So let's look at those guys. Peyton Woodyard, Xavion Brown, Red Morgan, Jalen Mbakwe, Jameer Grimsley, Dre Kirkpatrick Jr., and Zay Mincy. Man, that's just, it's wild to think about where we are. And it's only been, 7 days since Coach Saban has retired. And again, to discuss this again, it's amazing that Alabama is pretty much a sitting duck, and they can only go into the portal to recruit Washington, Arizona, maybe Michigan if things open up with Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. But Alabama is just a sitting duck. I mean, and it's amazing to think that Isaiah Bond, who went to Texas, potentially had an offer before he even went into the portal. So the timing of Coach Saban was never going to be good. But it happening right now is really gutting up the roster. And come on here and try to provide some insight and analysis to some of the positives to look forward to. And of course there are. I mean, you look at the guys on the roster. I'm going to build an offensive roster as well about guys returning. And you still have Alabama guys here that were recruited by Coach Saban. But also you have 3 decommitments so far. You have the guys from the class of 2025, and one of them had a statement that said lack of communication. I can only imagine, this new coaching staff coming in with 7 days and trying to get organized. I mean, they literally just made hires yesterday. So I know class of 2025 is way out there, but you got to re-recruit the players. You got to re-recruit class of 2025. You got to have at least someone come in that can kind of calm the masses. Jabbar Muhammad would certainly be one of those guys. If you get him in, I think that cools things down. Certainly landing Ryan Williams from the class of 2024 and getting him to sign would be kind of a great start for kind of this new build of this Alabama football team. The foundation is still here. There's players that are still here that were recruited by Saban, but I think, it's bumpy. We're off to, a rough start, and which is expected. I mean, you're replacing Coach Saban or trying to, and these players are comfortable with him. And starting off the day, losing Caleb Downs and now Kadyn Proctor, those are significant losses. Those guys started every single game last season. And there's guys that are going to step up, of course, but it's significant news. I want to get your take inside the comment box. What do you think about Kadyn Proctor hitting the portal? What do you think about kind of this right now where we are in terms of guys leaving the program? It's significant for sure. We'll keep you posted right here at Bama Football on YouTube. Run the thumbs up. I appreciate you guys doing that on all these videos. Really helps me as a content producer. And I'll be back to you guys as news happens right here on Bama Football on YouTube.